You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. On this very last segment, we are going to examine the corruption tag on President Akufo-Addo and his government, the accusation that he's been supervising historic graft. Is that correct? He has been saying a few things in reply. But before that, just one message on the hospital issues. Frank Anderson in London says that, let's stop these excuses. Queen's Hospital, where my first son was born, was not completed, but was in operation. There were scaffoldings and construction equipment on site, but the hospital was operating as normal. Tony Blair didn't have to commission before use. Let's stop making excuses for everything. The edifices are complete and there is dire need by citizens. Hire personnel to operate them. That's what leadership is all about. Thank you very much, Frank Anderson, Jr. Now, let's hear President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on the corruption tag and a few others who has some responses for him. They will come back to the studio.
The law of the jungle. I'm aware of the orchestrated attempts by my opponents to hang the tag of corruption on the necks of my government and myself, despite all the manifest efforts being made to deal with the phenomenon of corruption. I just have one simple answer for them. It will not work. I did not come into public life to enrich myself. So far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as SHRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. From the allegations against the then Minister-designate for Energy at his parliamentary confirmation hearings, to that against the former CEO of BOST, to those against the two deputy chiefs of staff, to the conflict of interest allegations against the Minister for Finance, to the claims of extortion against the Trade and Industry Minister, to allegations of doubling in visa racketeering against the then Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, the then Director General of the National Sports Authority, who, even though exonerated by the CID, later resigned, and the chairperson of the board of the National Sports Authority, to the allegations of bribery leveled against the secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, to the latest involving the suspended acting CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, and the dismissed CEO of the National Youth Authority. They have all been investigated or are being investigated by the authorized institutions of the state and not by President Akufo-Addo. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of corruption. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action.
Akufo-Addo claimed that he has saved the country about 2.7 billion Ghana cedis through the rejection of sole source contracts presented to the PPA. Didn't he know that the PPA boss was actually the source of the sole source contract? We wish to submit that this claim is false and challenge the president to publish a full list of all the specific cases of saving. Let him tell us that this contract was going to be sole source. We blocked it. This is what we have saved. And the total is 2.7 billion. Let him come out to tell us. To the NYA scandal, where a 4.5 million Ghana cedis contract was unlawfully awarded to an entity without recourse to procurement laws, it has been established beyond all reasonable doubt that corruption is the way of life for the president and his government. How the president can turn around in the face of this glaring evidence and blame his political opponents is further proof of the bubble of denial which he lives in.
In a historic first in Ghana, the president directs our attention to the passage of 2 pieces of legislation with stiff sentences in 2 areas of our national discipline: political vigilantism and illegal small-scale mining. He has fulfilled a major campaign promise to take the incumbents' political influence out of corruption by swiftly establishing office of the special prosecutor. But if you have individuals who have large families, who are competent, who have been part of their struggle over the years, and has been part of the political structure, there's no way anybody can accuse any government of bringing those competent, superior, technically able men and women to be part of his administration.
So you heard His Excellency the President at the annual Ghana Bar Association conference, and you heard also the National General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Esiedu Nketia, and then his counterpart in the NPP, John Boedu. Let me welcome my friend Gary Nimako Mafo. He's lawyer and member of the Legal Constitutional Committee of the New Patriotic Party. Thank you for joining us, Gary.
Thank you, my brother.
Great. Okay, so maybe I should start with Kofi.
Kofi has had a long time talking.
Kofi, why do I seem to hear too many people faulting the president? And I'm asking you also because, as a lawyer, what did the president say wrongly?
President didn't say anything wrong, and one of my friends just hinted or just sent a message and said that his problem was that it seems like the president came in to defend himself. And we all sensed that he felt like, yeah, he had to say something to defend himself. He didn't see anything wrong. But I think the first question as to why do we have this general feeling? You know, I teach my students something about expectation. Performance is not necessary by itself. It is what the expectation was, which is an issue. The thing with the president is that we all, or the people who are expecting maybe more of him, have such a high expectation of him. And so in a sense, he has been a victim of his own high standards. As a lawyer of good standing, you know, being who he is, coming into office at this time and consistently saying that at this point in his life, what does he need? Okay, people believe him. And given some of the things that happened even before...
But that also, is this really about him as Akufo-Addo?
But that's the whole point. People have projected to him the responsibility to fight. That's a very important concept. We've projected it to him. Look, it's
so the answer is not for him to say, I did not come to public office to enrich myself.
That's why I read my friend's text that people feel like, President, you are defending yourself. Okay? We actually don't think, or let's say me, I don't think President Akufo-Addo is corrupt per se. But people have such a high expectation or heart that being who he is, giving his track record, everything, we projected onto him personally the responsibility, I'm choosing my words well, to fight and try and bring this problem down. And there's a sense that it's not happening, at least at the level that we want it to happen.
The sense, in fact, is that it is worsening.
Well, yes, there's a sense it is worsening. Okay, so you can see why there is this sense of, well, Mr. President should do more. And I think we should pay attention to, you see, body language, especially in leadership. Look at Magufuli, all right? It's body language. When President Buhari came into office, my Nigerian friends told me that in the first few months, the man hadn't done anything. Things started working. The electricity started working. Look at Paul Kagame. So leadership has a certain message it has to send. And The worry is that people think that the president is being a bit too indifferent or a bit too detached. You know, he spoke about he's not the one to, you know, clear, we all agree. But the thing is, when there's a sense that, well, you've left it alone and let things work, we are quite sure in this country, based on all the things we've seen, that institutions don't work by themselves until you have strong, passionate men running them. So these are the mix of things which is causing this sense of, you know, disappointment that we are not fighting the corruption battle as we ought to be fighting.
Interesting, interesting. Now, you see, the NDC consistently says civil society doesn't, you know, speak about corruption, the manner it should do when the NPP is in government, traditionally, and that the clergy are also quiet. And sometimes you see them and hear them practically fighting the clergy and civil society. Now, they are quoting civil society, they are quoting CDD, they are quoting the clergy, and on the basis insisting that corruption is worse under Akufo-Addo. You say body language. What else can he do? He says what he does is that when the matters come up, he takes a step to refer them to the appropriate institutions. It is the institutions that clear them if they are cleared. What is his fault? What is wrong? What else can he do?
Again, I honestly don't want to make this about the president, but there is some sort of fact to some of these. Look at the Australia visa problem. It happened. Somebody took people there, disgraced this whole country. Okay, and the reports from these people is that money was collected from. It happened. There is direct responsibility and there is ultimate responsibility. Ultimate responsibility for executive action falls at the door of the president. The buck stops with him. The ministers and deputy ministers at the Ministry of Sports at the least should have been fired. Not because we didn't find direct responsibility with them, but they hold ultimate responsibility.
You're a lawyer. You talk of due process.
Yes.
You talk of natural justice. And
Yes.
if any one of them were fired in a public sort of office setting, not a political appointment, they may have consulted you.
No.
And you take them, you sue on their behalf, and they will win because natural justice is not followed.
No, they won't win. That's why I'm saying there is direct responsibility. We are not saying you caused this, but there is ultimate responsibility. By virtue of your office, it happened on your watch. Now, and I'm saying that buck stops at the president.
It happened on your watch. He suspended Pius.
You let me finish before I forget.
You say he should have sacked them.
No. Let me make my point. Listen. If even we didn't find the person who did it, and I'm saying this is why people perceive a certain sense that it's not being done. If we didn't find it, the fact that you sat there and somebody routed people to Australia and you couldn't catch it, the fact that we went all the way there and got disgraced, the fact that we can't find the person is the reason why you shouldn't have your job. And that is the job of the president. There is no natural justice
He
there.
shouldn't have reinstated him.
Absolutely not, because of the body language thing. If you have this, President Akufo says zero tolerance. You don't want, you see, even in law, justice must be done and must be seen to be done. And
Manifestly done.
Manifestly. In the area of politics, therefore, perception rules. Perception is more important than reality. So my view is that, look, if the man sat there and it happened under him, he didn't catch it. We went all the way to Australia to be disgraced. Nothing happened. We've come back. We are looking for the person. He doesn't have any idea. Then he has to take the fall for it.
Interesting.
So that's the issue.
hold
It's
it there.
ultimate responsibility.
Now, of course, the NDC held a press conference. The NPP held a press conference. For a moment, I thought the press conferences will not end. So how is it that the NDC insists that it is President Akufo-Addo who must suffer for the allegations of corruption, including, like he says, those actually proving wrongdoing that have happened with his appointees or people under his regime?
Something. It's about leadership. Leadership is cause. Leadership defines everything. And I agree with Kofi when he talks about body language. President Akufo, zero tolerance for corruption. We know what President Rawlings stood for. And what you would today call little things that he pursued. I agree with Manasseh Azuri's latest write-up, brilliant, that President Akufo-Addo called President Mahamad's efforts a sham. Under President Mahama, a deputy minister for communications, just for loose talk, dreaming that she could make $1 million, she was fired. Under President Mahama, the Honorable Abu Gapile, a former member of parliament, a former minister of state, for the Jida scandal, was prosecuted. The president did not intervene whatsoever, allowed the judiciary to do its work. As we speak, he is languishing in jail in Isawam prison.
Together with Philip
Together with Mr. Hasibit. And yet the president described all of those efforts as sham. So I come back to Kofi, I agree with him that the president set high standards, raised expectations that, hey, so Ghanaians said, look, if even after all of what President Mahama is doing, it's a sham. The President Akufo-Addo says he's not impressed and that he will raise the bar. You cannot fault Ghanaians for having high expectations. Now, what we have seen rather is that if you listen to all the independent analysts, they are saying that corruption has worsened. We know the role Vitus Azim has played in the anti-corruption campaign in this country. He says this is the worst he has seen. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, Dr. Reku Brobe, the very Reverend Awachie Pratt, for the first time, diplomats, and I work in the diplomatic space as ranking member, you know that they are very, reticent and reserved, before they will speak. For the Dutch ambassador to publicly say what he said. And even with his latest attempt to, after the executive has, been overbearing, you heard what the information minister said about him, the Speaker of Parliament, even that he says that, look, he insists that Ghana Beyond Corruption must be a major plank of the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. So, look, we are in a global village. We watch leaders all over, and we see how they are fighting corruption. Look at what happened in Sierra Leone a few weeks ago. The president's aide, President Julius Maada Bio's aide, goes to the synagogue church to give a testimony about how God has been good to her. And since they came into power a few months ago, she's been able to complete her building and all of that. Immediately, President Bio fires her. As we speak, Fatimata Gagbo is without a job and is facing trial. Fired her. Kenya, as we speak, the Kenyan finance minister was arrested and he is facing prosecution as we speak. He was arrested, detained by the anti-graft organization of Kenya. The president did not intervene. But the counterpart of all of these presidents in Ghana, there have been scandals that even before he says he does not interfere with investigative processes. Cash for seat, you remember? I was a major witness before the committee. And I was heartbroken when, even before the committee could adduce all facts and come to a determination, the president waded in and said that the allegations lacked merit and it was just a wild goose chase and it would go nowhere. The president's intervention immediately divided the committee's work. So for the first time in the history of the Ghanaian parliament, you had a majority report and a minority report. You don't do that. Look at what your counterparts are doing.
Whatever the president said didn't stop the members of parliament who are independent-minded people, who are adults,
who are supposed to be independent-minded,
to come to a report that would have
what will have happened.
Otherwise.
What will have happened to them if they had gone against what their president has said, what their leader has said? He's our president, sorry, but what the flag bearer of their party, their leader, has said. And you know
what else?
You know how.
What else?
Then you remember the Oslo Gate. Even before Parliament would conclude its deliberations, he was asked in that encounter with the media, you recall, which many people scored him very low marks. He said that, he heard me speaking on the floor during the budget review and it's just, baseless and nobody should listen to me and all that.
The foreign affairs minister would have briefed him And you know that but she stands by her convictions about these matters and the facts, and because of that, I think she sued you also?
Well, I'm waiting to be served, but you do know that later on, all the statements they issued, they indeed conceded to the facts I raised on the floor. They have backed out of that particular transaction. They are not buying that house. And the latest information is that they are purchasing another building far lower, less than half of what they were going to purchase. So I have saved this country more than $5 million. And those are the facts. But why is the president in a hurry to clear his people? You remember the Bost moving Pina Zouk oil matter? NPA had issued a statement. And you know that when it comes to the downstream petroleum sector, NPA is the authority. Issued a statement that, look, moving Pina is not registered. I mean, what has gone on is virtually criminal, and that they are going to investigate, look into it. The energy minister sets up a committee. Out of the blue, we are told that a BNI report overrides the minister's committee, the MPA's investigations, and that Mr. Alfred Obimboating has been cleared.
Is that a
cleared by the BNI?
Is that a president?
A BNI report we all did not see.
The president is not BNI.
Now, as we speak, the Senior Hosi Committee's report is out, and they virtually have confirmed all of what.
So, question: what did the president do to Alfred Obing? Is Alfred Obing at post?
Alfred Obing was later, we're told, in some exercise. But what happened? And that is one of the issues. Look,
was it really some exercise?
Reshuffle of some chief executives. We're not told why he was relieved. We're not told.
Okay.
If you compare what President Akufo-Addo is doing to what his predecessors did and what his colleagues who are being touted as anti-corruption.
So you hold on briefly for
Lee Kuan Yew, finally. Lee Kuan Yew, who is credited, and why up to today, Singapore remains all the Transparency International reports. And by the way, talking about Transparency International reports, we are having our worst performance under President Akufo-Addo. So when President Akufo-Addo says his opponents want to place a tag on him, it's not about his opponents.
But when he says opponents, NDC takes that to themselves. Is his opponents the NDC, only the NDC?
We are saying that the Dutch ambassador cannot be his opponent.
Okay.
We are saying that civil society cannot be the president's political opponents. Reverend Wachipla,
which civil society are you referring to?
The clergy and all of
which
those, who are speaking. All of those who are speaking cannot come.
So just hold on for me. Just hold on for me. Just hold on for me.
I'm saying we need strong leadership.
Thank you.
The president is complicit, even by his appointments. The nepotistic way he appointed
Sami, can
his
you
officials.
Can you take a break for me? Thank you.
In the fight against
Thank you. So there's a constant reference to the Dutch ambassador. Let's hear exactly what the Dutch ambassador said. It's just some 1 minute. Let's hear him.
There is nothing so killing for the business climate, and you need a good business climate to attract foreign investment, I think, than corruption. Corruption is a very bad thing. Companies suffer and will stay away if they think that they are going to be harassed by corruption in a certain country. The slogan now is, the official policy is Ghana beyond aid. Why not Ghana beyond corruption?
Right, so you heard him for yourself. Now, Gary, Sami also referred to Manasseh Azoriawene. And this is what Manasseh has to say. What do you say about that when you cast it against the posture of the government now? We have heard, for example, the information minister address the press and say, oh, we should go beyond mere allegations, and that civil society and everybody should be careful, and not be running, there's corruption. Now, here's what Manasseh says. And he writes, it is clear from the actions taken in cases like judgment debts, the World Cup saga, JIDA, SADA, DVLA saga, the Metro Mars branding, etc., that the fight against corruption is a sham. I say again, the so-called fight against corruption is a sham, quote unquote. Who is speaking? Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, February 2016. In his true State of the Nation address. So Manasseh says, On Jida, 2 people were imprisoned, including Abuga Pele and a former MP from Mohammed's government. 60 million cedis was retrieved from the RLG group. All the contracts but one were cancelled. A bill was drafted and passed into law to streamline Jida. The YEA Act of 2015 was passed. I agree with President Akufo-Addo's assertion that more had to be done in the Jida case. But if he was bold to call Mohammed's fight against corruption a sham, even with the above actions, then he should not take offense when Ghanaians think his efforts in fighting corruption are shambolic.
Samson, I disagree with Manasseh Azuri Awone. He's a fine journalist. There are times that we cross our paths, you know, in legal banters, but I disagree with him on that score. And Ablakwa, you know already you are in court on a matter which I'm looking for you to serve you. Look, I've seen you here. So the bailiffs will start coming here to come and serve you immediately.
I'm ever ready.
Anyway, it's good that at least 4 of us are lawyers, and my brother, Honorable Ablakwa, is a law student. You see, it's a lady. Prosecution.
Okay, you're an LLB holder, not a law student. Okay.
Oh, congratulations.
Right.
Congratulations.
Don't make this about me. You.
Okay,
We'll keep him in the chamber.
We'll train him in the chamber. Yeah.
His wife is a lawyer anyway.
You see, you cannot commence prosecution without investigation. That is a baseline. How do you prosecute somebody without investigation? When an allegation is made, the president in his right has to refer to the agency of state, whether BNI, whether IOCO, whether SHARJ, whether CID, or whatever, to investigate first. Without investigation, how do you proceed?
That's direct responsibility.
You have to investigate first.
No, ultimate responsibility.
No. You see, you cannot, and I must repeat this point, you cannot vicariously hold somebody liable for crime. If it's about crime, it is crime.
It's not crime.
Now, if somebody, for instance, has done something about procurement irregularities or breaches, and you say because the president appointed a person, he is vicariously liable for that offense, you can't say that. You cannot say that. You see, we can do politics with some of these things, but you must understand that when somebody has been said that, look, you've done something wrong, go and be investigated. Odi alterem patem, you must be heard. You have to be heard. Now, if you go and they investigate you, after investigation, it turns out that indeed and in fact there is some information to prosecute you, then you must come have your day in court. How can you put a person in court without investigation? Or now the mere fact that they say, let me even God forbid that they say, Mr. Ladi, who is my very, very good friend, has taken public money because he's a minister of state in charge of something. You say, by virtue of mentioning his name, God forbid, he's liable. And therefore, you should just take him to jail immediately. It doesn't work like that. No, but that's the effect of what you are saying. That's the effect of what Mr. Blakwa is saying.
No, nobody.
That's the effect.
Nobody has said that.
That's why I'm saying that you cannot cross the threshold to go to court unless you have done what we call investigation. Now, the president was speaking to an audience made up of lawyers. And the basic tenet is that you have to refer the matter for the matter to be investigated.
The question is, has the president's principles changed from when he was in opposition and now in government?
I don't think so. I don't think. Why has the principles changed? The principles of investigation, the principles of law has not changed in the last 3 years. The fact that when the matter comes up and you should investigate hasn't changed for the last 3 years.
He said the actions that had been taken in the World Cup saga, in the Jida, the SADA, the DVL saga, the Metro Mass, where people were made to resign, in all those matters, in the name of fighting corruption, was a sham. That's what he said. Did he mean then? Did he mean that President Mahama should have done something extra? And is he doing that extra? That's the question I suppose they are asking him.
Well, you see, let me now bring you back. The matters that His Excellency referred about the cases which since he assumed office has come to his attention or his knowledge.
Yeah.
The Ajaku matter, which Parliament itself investigated and which Parliament itself cleared. Now, Honorable Blackwell said there are 2 reports. There are no 2 reports.
No,
it is only 1 report.
No, cash for seat. You are talking about the Jacob bribery.
Sorry, the cash for seat. There are not 2 reports. It is only 1 report.
Cash for seat, there are 2 reports. There's a majority report and a minority.
No. A report is 1 report. Now, if there's a minority view, it should be incorporated in the report itself. It's only 1 report. You don't go and sit somewhere, and then when a report is being prepared...
We issued a minority report. You can't speak for the minority. I am
so we have gone over that debate that the process required that it ought to be incorporated.
It was incorporated.
Yes.
But you guys couldn't agree. So
yes, so it will be 1 report. So we cannot say there are 2 different reports.
So let's get to the
substance.
That is 1. Yeah.
2. The issue about the 2 deputy chief of staffs. It is a CID that did the work.
Yeah.
And clear the matter. The issue about the
Siraj also dealt with that matter actually with the deputy chiefs of staff.
Yes, and clear the matter. You see, there is a certain semblance, a certain...
Okay, so I'm not trying any defense here. I'm only giving information out because, as you know, I represent one of the deputy chief of staff in court who sued somebody who repeated these allegations. Yeah.
Great. You see, there is a certain subculture that once a name comes up, once somebody mentions your name for any wrongdoing, then you are guilty as charged. That is a difficulty I have. You see, if you are not careful, we'll move this country into a stage where now it will matter no more the fact that anybody says that, oh, Gary Marco, you are involved with something, no court, no investigation, nothing, you should just take it to someone in prison. Is that how we want to go? I don't think so.
As the president,
yes,
on the basis of prima facie investigations, dismiss people in his government? Has he, on the basis of prima facie investigations, asked people to resign from office? Has he done so?
But recently, you were in this country. In fact, I was even out of town when I heard that the
National Youth
Authority, there was a problem there.
So that's the example they are trying to use. There
was a problem.
They are saying that why can't you do same in the other situations to show that you are actually serious about the fight?
No, but if investigation has been conducted on the matter, and it turns out the person is not liable, so how do you dismiss a person?
So who is liable?
Australia visas. So why is it that in the NYA case you have not concluded investigations by an established body, and yet the people have been asked to go home?
Because possibly the information available to assistant the president suggests that something wrong might have occurred, and therefore that decision to take that action having occasion.
So the same question.
Having occasion.
Australian visa scandal.
Because it is the information available to the president at that material time that is crucial. You see,
the announced investigations on his appointee, which he referred to also.
Which announced investigation?
I'm talking about Charles Bisu. The Galamsey fraud.
Yeah, but Charles Bisu, there's a police CID report which has cleared him, isn't it? And we are told that
the police CID did not have information. And did not petition them. The Office of Special Prosecutor.
Hold on. I have the documents here. I know the level of these matters.
You see, we should get at this point very clear. There was a certain statement made by the SP to the effect that
special prosecutor.
Yeah, that well, he's investigating the matter, and therefore the CID should also not have investigated the matter.
Yes, he wrote to them actually. He wrote to the Interior Minister.
That position, I disagree with him.
I agree.
I disagree with him.
He didn't have it right.
You see, you cannot oust the power of the CID to investigate any matter of crime or suspected crime. You can't oust it. You cannot. In any event, the SP has a very limited area of jurisdiction that he can go in. It's not even matter that he can investigate.
Yes.
You understand?
That's true.
So you see,
but he was seized with the matter.
What do you say? What do you say about this other thing they say?
Not?
Gary, they also say that.
Yes.
So why is it that these reports only get to the president, and he's the one who announces that the people have been cleared, and he doesn't share these reports with the public?
I think that call could be a legitimate call.
Okay.
That, well, it's a matter of public information if you want to. But you have been in court severally, demanding reports from court, in the Human Rights Court. I've seen it severally. So if you have interest in the report, why have you to I mean, use the new law that has been passed recently.
Right
of information, which you were very instrumental in.
It is not in effect.
Well, it's not in effect, but
your
then
government
there's a right.
But
the act is still is there, and again, Mr. Ladi has gone to court severally to invoke the constitutional imperative to get access.
Questions. Don't direct this at me.
No, but you see, if you think that the information is relevant and you need it, there's a procedure to get information through other means. If you know
those who are asking the questions,
they should go to court. They can go and get the information.
Be proactive about it.
You understand the thing? You see, let's understand it this way. And I always share this view, very dispassionately. We should all understand that corruption matters. It didn't start today. That is one. Two, we should all agree as a nation that this idea of, let's say, who is much more corrupt than that NDC and MPP in a political, match. Let's see whether NDC is more corrupt. Let's see MPP is more corrupt. That will not end us anywhere. You know why? We should understand that money is meant for public services. If it ends in the wrong pocket, it's wrong. How can money is meant for all of us, the general good, end up in my private pocket when I'm the custodian of that money? It is wrong. And therefore, we shouldn't encourage that kind of behavior. And that is why, in my humble view, and the view of the party, if it turns out that any investigation goes on, and in fact, it is very clear that you have been involved in any malfeasance, the party cannot shield you.
Okay. What about if you have a responsibility?
So, like the president said, the president will act on the recommendations when they come to him.
And rightly so. And rightly so. If you look at the events so far, everything that's come to him, he has recommended. So referred. So if you cannot have one person who will be an investigator, the same person a prosecutor, the same person adjudicator or a judge.
Okay.
Is it possible?
Let's hear Doc briefly.
Is it possible?
Yes. Doc, what do you say?
Yeah,
let's hear Doc.
You see, I think that we need to put this whole thing in context. I have categorized them into 3 areas. The first is the rules, the processes, the procedures. What are we doing about them? And I think what the president said at the bar was apt. He was speaking to the facts. He has strengthened some of these things. The office of the special prosecutor has come. He's giving resources to the agencies, SHRAG, IOCO, all of them. It might not be perfect, but at least he's improved on the allocations to them. So we expect them to do more. Now, the law requires that there should be due diligence, and then the rules and processes must be followed. So if the president says that, look, people will have to go through the due process, I agree with him.
Does it sound to you that the president was unaware of the due process when he claimed that in 2016, February, that the actions taken by John Mahama in those matters in which some people have actually been incarcerated were a sham in the fight against corruption?
And he concluded that more has to be done.
Yes.
I'm going to come to that. So I think we all need to agree that that first premise, we will have to abide by it. There's no way we can go out of the rule of law. The second has to do with the institutions themselves. It is about time we let the institutions understand that they are accountable to the people of Ghana. Such that when they conduct some of these things, it is up to them to feed us with the right information and give us the opportunity to also question them about certain things. It shouldn't take the president to be the one who will announce whatever outcome they come with. They should take it that this is the output of our work, and we stand by it.
And publish
so that, yes, that's the saying, publication. Make the information known to us so that we can also challenge them where we think that they need to be challenged. And then in the process, we strengthen the institution. Then,
one of our viewers watching outside of the country, YK Ansenbua, says he was expected to hit the road running. Sami spoke about expectations. Hit the road running radically himself to inject a new sense of purpose into fighting corruption. But he still doesn't get it, unfortunately for Ghana. Defending his appointees who have compromised their position and his governments is indeed sad and hopeless to his acclaimed intention to fight corruption.
Good. That leads me into the third bit that I was going to say. Perception. You see, this whole corruption thing is measured on perception. Now, when it comes to the perception, it is what the ordinary man is being fed with, and he is made to, in quote, believe, or he thinks that this is the state. And this is where I think that the president, like he said, more has to be done. He needs to do more to ensure that that perception is erased. Because, look, we as a people, based on the promises he gave us, we expected a lot more from him. So if at this point, a section of the population thinks that more is not being done as per what he had promised us, then clearly that perception will still linger on. So we need a lot more to be done from his end. Okay. And when we say from his end, we don't mean his person.
All right, so I ran out of time. Jake says that Gary Nimako says there is no vicarious liability for crime. Yes, that's true. But when you read the Quality Grain case and the judgment of Justice Afre on the offense of causing financial loss to the state, it appears to me that there is indeed vicarious liability for certain financial offenses in Ghana.
It is the offense, say willfully causing.
Willfully causing. Sorry, just I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, but this is where time takes us to
the latest 2018 Auditor General's report. You know the matter
so
of,
my guests for this segment have been Gary Nimako Mafo, lawyer and member of the Legal Constitutional Committee of the NPP. Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is MP Northtown and ranking member Foreign Affairs in Parliament. Dr. Justice Yangson, General Secretary, GMA and lawyer. And Kofi Bentil is Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. He just said, oh, time is just run out. I'm sorry. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. My outfit, as always, is by Latida. Have a good afternoon.